All right. Hello and welcome to episode 19 of Rhody Rumble podcast with John Vanner. I'm Adam Bernstein. JV is the URI men's basketball hype man and the Rhody Ruckus lead ambassador since the start of the 2007-08 season. JV, I appreciate you taking the time to join me. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Adam, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
For sure. So do you have any big or exciting plans to start for the summer?
To be honest with you, the only big news I got is I'm moving from the place me and my wife have been at for close to 7 years. So we're moving July 1st. So that's pretty much all I got in the docket, and maybe some travel plans possibly, but we'll see.
Gotcha. Where are you moving to?
I live in Providence now, and I'm actually moving to Providence.
Okay.
I'm moving from the not so great West End to the ritzy, nice East Side. So it's a little safer and nicer over there. So I'm looking forward to it.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
And any traveling plans yet, or any vacations, or?
No, you know what? Me and my wife couldn't go on our honeymoon last year because of COVID, which was unfortunate. That's kind of still on hold. We haven't really made any solid plans to travel far yet, but I'm at least going to hit the Cape up at least for a couple weekends. Maybe head up to Maine. Some short trips. But I'm hopefully can get out of the state now that COVID's kind of relaxing a little bit.
Sounds great. Things are definitely opening up, and life is becoming back to normal, or somewhat normalcy.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
a question we always like to start with is what motivates you, or what is your why? Where does your motivation stem from?
It's a good question. It's tough. It's weird to say, but I really just fell into this job. I started as just an intern for Steve McDonald at the radio station where he works, and he also obviously does the play-by-play for football and basketball. I started as an intern, and they needed someone to, go on the floor and get the crowd going and hype up the crowd a little bit. I didn't know, what I was doing or if I would even like it. And then, as things progressed and, the program kept getting built up and we kept getting more fans, what keeps me coming back is I just love this community. I love, quote unquote, Rhody Nation. We have just the best set of diehard fans that, stick by this program through thick and thin. And just their energy is infectious and exciting to me. And that's really the why for me. I get no better joy out of my life. It's been, like you said, I started in 2007, 2008, makes me feel really old. But I keep coming back for that, man. I mean, that's really it. I just love the fans and the energy of the Ryan Center. There's no other feeling like it.
For sure. And I've been there for 2 seasons now, but my freshman year, I've seen a couple of those games, PC, Alabama, VCU, of course, the Obi Toppin game. But, as a diehard fan yourself, how did you decide to go to URI and when it was time to commit for college?
Yeah, honestly, man, I don't want to say I didn't really have a choice, but I would guess I say, my family's got somewhat of a legacy there. My father went to the university, and he was a student teacher, and he met my mother, who was actually a freshman, and they met on campus, and they got married, while they were still students, and then my father worked at the university in the athletics department for over 42 years, so. Especially as a young kid, I spent a lot of weekends and a lot of time following him around, just watching him do his thing on game days, whether it was volleyball or soccer or football or basketball. I spent so much time around, the campus and the university, and I just fell in love with it at such a young age. So I don't want to say I was forced to go, but, when the time came to decide where I was going to go to school, obviously, being in-state tuition's a little cheaper, but it was a no-brainer for me. I wanted to go to URI.
For sure. The motto, Rhode Island born, Rhode Island bred, really applies to you.
You got it. I bleed Keene blue, my friend.
There you go. I'm from Long Island, New York, but my dad went to URI, so I wasn't born in Rhode Island, but I guess I was born to be at Rhode Island, essentially.
That's
So,
awesome, man.
you know,
You're not alone, man. There's a
yeah,
lot of Jersey Rhody alum that are out and about. It's got to be one of the top hometowns from Rhody folks. It seems like people just like migrate from Jersey up to Rhody. So I'm happy to have you, man.
for sure, for sure. So you are a 2008 graduate of
Yep.
URI. 2008.
Yep.
Okay, so you're a 2008 graduate. I want to know how it really all started. So you started your senior year becoming the hype man, essentially the face of the student section. How did that really start and evolve into what it is today?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that because it definitely was an evolution. Like I had previously mentioned, I was kind of I needed to find an internship, while I was still in school and finishing up school. And since, I knew Steve McDonald a little bit from around URI, he had told me that the radio station has, summer intern program. So, I signed up and, did a lot of stuff at the radio station and then ended up sticking around. And then, URI was looking for somebody to come on the court during, dead ball timeouts in the game, to do, games and activities just to keep the crowd engaged and up to it and, into it. And at that time, I'm going to be honest, the team wasn't very good. We didn't have a lot of fans in the stands at that point. But, I did it and it was really tough at first. I didn't know what I was doing. I had big like cue cards that I would almost type out everything I was going to say. And I would have my head buried in the cue cards and not really paying attention because I was so like nervous about having so many people looking at me. And at first, that's kind of really all it was. I would just kind of go out during timeouts like I still do, and play games and kind of do activities. And then, over the years, as the program started becoming on the rise and getting, bigger and bigger, I got more comfortable being out on the court. So I would, get rid of the cue cards because, I realized quickly that if I just kind of knew what I had to talk about, instead of like burying my head into these, and trying to read sentence by sentence, it was much more natural and I can engage much more by just kind of ditching that. So I got more comfortable with it. We started getting better. We had more fans. And then, what that turned into is, like you said, I'm like the de facto leader of the ruckus. And that was totally organic and by accident. And what happened was, as we started getting better and more students showed up, you would get, freshmen and kids that really didn't know any of the chants and didn't know really how to cheer and kind of were looking for somebody to kind of lead them in the right direction. And me being a diehard fan as it is, and I'm just kind of between timeouts, I was just watching the game like everybody else. So I'm sitting there yelling, screaming like, I would if I was a fan in the stands. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to keep doing this. And people started kind of, paying attention to me and listening to what I was doing. And then it just kind of morphed into me standing in front of, the ruckus in the student section, kicking off chants, getting them going. And then in addition to that, during timeouts or, if we didn't have like a game or something scheduled, I would just run on the court like a madman and start screaming and getting the crowd all hyped up because I was so excited. And, thankfully the marketing department and URI like really embraced that. And they said, we want you to keep doing that. Keep going. So that's kind of really the progression of, how it started and where I am today. It's crazy that it really wasn't like this before,
That is crazy. And I know the school actually honored you along with the seniors your senior year on senior night with that honor. What was that experience like going up there, receiving that?
Well, it's funny you say that, Adam. That is actually not the case. What happened was I actually decided that year that I was going to retire from doing, my job pretty much. It had been 10 years at that point, and I figured, it was a nice kind of way to bookmark things. The program was like at a pinnacle. We were nationally ranked. We were a lock for the tournament. And, at that time I had felt, the last thing I want to do is become like, an old 50-something-year-old guy kind of trying to hang out with the young kids. And I didn't want to make it like pathetic in some ways, So I thought, 10 seasons in, let me just kind of step aside, become a fan again, and let some other young gun come in here and kind of take over. So what ended up happening was, and I can't blame you for thinking that, they ended up honoring me and surprised me on that senior night, and the last home game of the season with like a plaque and a video and everything. And it caught me like totally off guard. And basically, long story short is I was totally ready to honor the retirement. I said I was done. But the overwhelming reaction I got from all the Rhody fans, especially when we had traveled that year for the A10 tournament and the NCAA tournament, I traveled with the team, and the fans just would not leave me alone. Everywhere I went, they were like, "Dude, what are you doing? Why are you leaving?" And you know, I was like, it's time, it's time, it's time. And I just kept getting bothered and bothered and bothered. So then the summer came along, and the marketing department came to me and said, "John, JV, we got no really buddy to replace you. We can't really find anybody. Like, what would it take for you to come back?" And at that point, I still was fine with my decision, but them asking me if I'd come back, combined with all the fans just continuously, even like months after the off season, I was at the beach or at a concert, and people would come up to me and be like, "Dude, why aren't you coming back?" So long story short, they asked, I said, "All right, you know what? I'm not done yet." And I ended up returning that next season. And I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah, you came out of retirement just
Yeah.
to root on Rhody.
It was a super fake retirement. That's the other thing. I was like, these people are going to make fun of me because I only really retired for a game. It was an exhibition game I missed, but it all ended up great. I got a great reaction, and everybody seemed to be psyched that I was back. So,
yeah, for sure. So do you think down the road they'll honor you again in some way for an official retirement, or?
I don't know. I think it may be a little weird to do it a second time. I still have the plaque at my mother's house, and like the framed jersey and all this stuff. Like, it's great. They made a big head of me. Some of the students. It was really touching. But we'll see how it all plays out. I definitely, after missing last year, I'm psyched to be back this year. I'm definitely going to be back this year. But who knows what the future holds. But if I do decide to step away again, we'll see. I don't necessarily need a big going away, but we'll see what happens.
For sure. It's great that all of the students and really just the fan base itself embraces you so much. You really get everybody, up on their feet, the ruckus throughout the game during halftime, as you mentioned, and, you're pumped up with the microphone on the court. What kind of adrenaline or what kind of feeling do you get when you're doing that or leading the chants during a big game or a big run or play, something like that?
There's just not, like I said a little while ago, there's just nothing to compare that feeling of just having, almost 8,000 people in some circumstances, just literally in the palm of your hand, like waiting for every word you say, hanging on every breath, and just the reaction I can get. There's really nothing like it. I'm almost getting goosebumps. I know you can't see it, but I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about it. Like, there's really just no better feeling in the world. And like, there's the Ryan Center is such a special place to me. I've been to dozens and dozens of arenas for basketball games and other sports around the world. Obviously, there's bigger ones and maybe louder ones, but the infectious energy when Rhody's making like a big run in that place, and you feel like literally like the roof is about to blow off. Oh man, there's literally nothing better than that. And I treasure every second that I can do it, and I have the privilege of doing it. And just being able to help, get the fans into that fever pitch where they're really just screaming, yelling, going crazy. It's a real honor to be able to be in a position to do it,
For sure. And I know these players really feed off of the fans. And like I mentioned, the Obi Toppin game, although we lost that game, PC game, the Bama game, I was able to watch those games in person. And every player that I've spoken to, they've said that they really feed off of the fans, certainly making an impact in the Ryan Center. Really, you being kind of in charge of all of this noise in the Ryan Center, it must be such an honor. It must be nerve-wracking at times to kind of, get everybody, a whole arena, 8,000 people up on their feet to get these players going and to win a game. So
yeah, exactly. I've said forever, and I'm sure most coaches and players agree, a home court advantage really does make a huge difference. And I'm sure last year is very weird for some of those guys. You're playing a home game, but it's really like it's not a home game because you're not, the people aren't there to kind of give you that extra push and that that extra energy that you need if you're kind of down. And you're trying to make a run. It really, really does make a difference to those guys. And I've heard it from everybody, And I can't help but think that some of the struggles we had last year were because of that. But yeah, I mean, it's really, really crazy. And, I got very, very nervous and kind of frustrated early on because, I was not used to speaking in front of thousands of people previously. So it's like people are, you're in the middle of the court and people are just looking at you on the side of the court and they're kind of looking for you to lead the way. So to have that many eyes on you, especially early on, was nerve wracking. Nowadays I don't even feel it anymore. I just kind of just feel whatever the energy is. And I trust myself that even if I don't know what I'm going to say, as soon as that mic goes on and I walk out there, something's going to come to me. So, I don't have much, nerves anymore, but the adrenaline and the energy is surefire way to just kind of, light a match and watch the fire catch.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned that you started with the cue cards and really preparing. Do you kind of just go in blind and now just see what the vibe is, what the energy is like in the arena, or is there any like preparation on game day?
Yeah, there's
Like
still
walk me through
preparation.
that.
Yeah, there's still preparation on game day, and it's funny. Thanks for asking the question,
Mm.
because I don't think most fans really know the type of effort that goes into what we refer to almost as a show or like a concert. People have to understand that there are dozens and dozens of people behind the scenes that make what I do look like it's supernatural and easy. We have scripts that we follow, that we've got folks in the back that are, you've got the cameramen, you've got a director in the back, you've got people that are manning computers that are updating stats and updating all the video or whatever showing on the big board. We have a director, plus you've got your cheerleaders and your Ramettes. And there's just so many things that go, and then we have interns too. So when we're playing games, they help set everything up. So it really is a group effort, and it takes days of preparation. They put together a script that's almost choreographed to the minute, especially when we're on TV. We don't have the luxury of just, JV, go out there and kill, 5 minutes. We have a very, very tight time span, especially if during a timeout we have multiple things we need to do or say with the announcer and then me, or if there's a performance. So there is a real lot that goes into it. And I thank all those guys. Those guys are some of the most unsung heroes of what we do. They work tirelessly and are pretty much behind the curtain and never seen, all you really see is me, or the Ramettes, the cheerleaders. So they make it look easy. But I guess, back to your question, is there a script? Yes. During every scheduled media timeout, I know I'm going to come out at the under 16 or the under 8 and the under 4, and I know what I'm going to be doing during those timeouts. I don't use a script anymore. I'll look at the script and they'll say, okay, this is the game we're playing today. You have these two guys, these are their names, this is the prize they're playing for, and this is, the sponsor of the segment or whoever it is. So that's one piece of it. But then there are the other pieces, like kind of when you just see me go out there during late game scenarios where I'm kind of just going off the cuff and screaming and yelling. That is totally not planned, because obviously we can't plan for called timeouts, or we can't plan for, we're up 2 points with 30 seconds to go. That stuff is just totally on the cuff. Our director will say, all right, throw JV out there, send JV out there, and they'll, the DJ will play a song, and I'll run out there and go kind of just off the top of my head.
Yeah,
So
I'm sure.
it's a juggle of both.
I'm sure it's a little bit of on the fly, as you mentioned. Basketball is such a fast-paced game, so really, if we're down by 20 or if we're up by 4, it's to really impact how the fans are even feeling, and that also relies on you to kind of get people up on their feet and
Yep.
motivated and chanting. So definitely seems like a difficult job, and there is a lot of preparation, and I think a lot of people like myself don't realize. So I give you a lot of credit for that. I certainly cannot do that. But you've seen several games, so many games in the Ryan Center. What are some of your best, most memorable games or even moments that you've witnessed in that building?
Oh God, there's just so many. I've been asked this. I've been on a couple other podcasts, and people have interviewed me before, and I've had, asked this question. It's always so tough to decide. One of my favorite games ever was when we, for the first time ever, beat a ranked opponent at the Ryan Center. It was Nebraska. About 6 years ago, I want to say. That was unbelievable. We beat them in overtime, and the fans rushed the floor. They were ranked, and that was like a time where I was caught in the middle of all the kids running, and I'm like, okay, I think the program has finally arrived and is finally, I feel like is about to make it, and it was true. That was Dan Hurley's first real big win. And then there was the time a couple of years ago when we beat PC at home for the first time in forever. That was real special. In fact, anytime we've beaten PC at the Ryan Center has been real special. That's always a memory I'll always remember, just because every time we play them, it is completely standing room only, sold out, and it's always so much more special to beat them at home, or beat them, period. And then, just off the top of my head, more recently, Stanford Robinson, and I saw your interview with him when he hit that buzzer beater in the corner against Duquesne, I believe it was. Oh, man. And that game was crazy because we were ranked and they weren't, and they were beating us hard, like for almost the entire game. We were down 20 at some point, and we fought all the way back. And then that corner three was a beautiful moment. So one of my favorites. But again, there's been just so many. Even times I wasn't working. The first game ever in the Ryan Center. We had a player named Dustin Halanga that hit a three in the corner to beat USC for the very first game in the Ryan Center. God, there's just so many. Even going back to not even the Ryan Center, going back to Keeney Gym. I've got memories there, but those are just a couple. I could go on for hours or days. What was your favorite? I know you haven't seen many, but what was your favorite so far?
Yeah, well, since being at URI as a student, so it's only been 2 years, I had the opportunity to broadcast a couple of games through WRIU this past year, which was nice because it was really depressing just seeing nobody in the arena, and also they weren't playing great at all. So that was good, but still nothing. I think the best games as a student that I've seen were definitely as a freshman. So 2 years back, beating PC, I still tell people is one of the best games, if not the best game I've ever been at. Just the atmosphere, just how loud it was, seeing you. And I was in the Ruckus. I was a couple of rows back. Most of the games I was in like first 2 rows, but that one you had to be there like hours, like 10 a.m. in order to be in the first row. So I'll maybe like 8 or 9 rows back, but it still felt special just being there. That game was special. Beating Alabama was special too. I don't really know why. Just big school. One of my best friends goes to Alabama, so I was kind of rubbing it in his face the entire time. Like you guys are a football school, like get out of here. But as a fan watching from home from New York, probably just when we beat VCU to win the A-10 championship. That was probably I watched that on TV, but that, and you mentioned the Stanford Robinson shot. I was fortunate enough to ask him that question, but those two, I get goosebumps still talking about those two memories. And I wasn't even in the building, but just watching it on national television all the way from New York, because I think the VCU game was in like Pittsburgh or something.
No, Atlantic. It was Atlantic City. Maybe it was it wasn't Pittsburgh. You're right. Yeah. That's exactly where it was. Yep.
Yeah. So I was like nowhere near Pittsburgh, but I just still felt like the energy in that building. And I like seeing on Twitter right after the fans giving them a greeting in the airport right when they came home with the trophy. It was, those are just some memories that I mean, I wasn't even there for 2 of them, but it felt like I was there because it just felt so,
there's nothing
welcoming.
Better.
But
there really is nothing better. And whether you're obviously it's great to be in the house, and I've been really lucky to, I've seen every one of our NCAA games in person, the recent run, even all the way back to, 1998 with our Elite Eight run. But, being there obviously is really special, but, watching from home can be special as well. And you know what, dude, you're lucky. You got 2 more years plus the rest of your life. I guarantee you're going to catch a few more golden games at the Ryan Center before all is said and done, and make some good memories.
Hopefully. And I didn't mention the Dayton game. We got blown out, but we had the 2 guys from Barstool there that made it.
Yeah.
What was it? The Storm Chaser, something like that.
Yeah, Storm Chaser.
That made it pretty special too. So chirping Obi Toppin, who I'm now rooting for as a Knicks fan. So there you go.
Nice. Hey, well,
Um,
it was,
yeah,
like you said, there's been plenty of games that we've lost to the Ryan Center, but I've just been in awe of some of the talent I've got to see in person, including Obi. So, obviously I would have loved to win that game, but those guys were on, a trajectory of they weren't going to be stopped. I still feel like they were so robbed because there was no tournament that year. Those guys could have definitely won the whole thing.
yeah, it really makes me think like if COVID never happened, they definitely would have had a first seed in one of the brackets, but they could have made a run, and they were scary. I was honestly nervous going into that game, but I mean, he's in person, he's a monster.
He
Obi
is,
Toppin and Jalen Crutcher is so talented as well.
for
But
sure.
what are your expectations for this team this upcoming season? Obviously, it was a frustrating year with COVID and obviously with injuries, Fats Russell's injury, stuff like that. What are your expectations for the team this year? And then what are your expectations for the fans and for your job this year, just in general?
Yeah, it's tough to put like a finger on exactly what, pardon me, my expectations are for the season. Um, I think we have a very talented group. Last year was, frustrating and disappointing because on paper we had some of the best talent that we had, ever seen, in recent times at URI. And, I know myself, and it's no secret that we really, struggled at times, and it felt like we really couldn't find an identity. And, I expected, I with so many transfers and so many new guys, I expected that we would definitely have some struggles. But, I think everyone thought we were going to mesh a little better, especially kind of down the stretch once they got some, experience playing with each other. But like you said, with some injuries kind of throwing a wrench in some of the plans, it just never materialized. But, this year I'm hoping that with that, the experience from last year, some bulletin board material, and the ability to kind of have a full year of preparation, working out, figuring out which lineups work, where the talent fits in. I think we're gonna see some definitely improvement this year, and I have high hopes. I still think, if we can live up to our potential, we're definitely a top 5 A10 team for sure. Even losing Fats, I think even still we have the ability to be a top 5 team for sure.
Yeah, I think this lineup from the starting five to the bench is very deep, and I do have a lot of confidence in Coach Cox and his staff. But were you surprised to see Fats decide to transfer? Did you think he would just go off and graduate and try and go to the NBA like he had mentioned, or did you think he would take a fifth year elsewhere?
It's kind of tough. I didn't know what to expect. Obviously, he had a very underwhelming year, and he was, disappointing. As I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it. It was a disappointing year for Fats. Your senior year, he had such an unbelievable junior season, and he was hobbled with, they said like there was like 3 or 4 different injuries he was dealing with throughout the year. And he still, was able to do what he does and carry us for a bunch of games. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not very surprised, I think. I did not think – I knew he wasn't coming back. I knew – I just had a feeling. I didn't know any intel or anything, but I just knew that, I think his chapter at Rhody was done. Did I think he was going to take a fifth year elsewhere? I think that was lower – that was further down on what I anticipated initially. I figured he would, go for the NBA. If it didn't work, maybe try for a G League or play overseas, and get some, some experience and some cash. But then when he announced the decision, it makes sense. He did have an underwhelming year last year. And if you're an NBA scout, you're looking at the year and that may not make you think you want to maybe draft him, So the opportunity for him to go to a Power 5 program, like, go to Maryland, which is a very, very good program. He'll have the opportunities this year to show out and, make some noise and make his stock rise. So I think it's a great move for him. I wish him no ill will at all. That man left it all on the court for us for 4 years, blood, sweat, tears. So I wish him nothing but the best. I'll be rooting for him.
For sure. I wish I was at the game this past season against Dayton. I think they won in like double overtime, and
Yeah, that was
that was the
insane.
game that he set the all-time record or the program record for steals. So
Yep.
I wish I had the opportunity to go to that game. I 100% agree with what you just said. I was a little surprised by it, but at the same time, it does make a lot of sense. He's going to a bigger, better conference. He's playing for a great program, great coach. And now he has the opportunity to do well there and probably get drafted higher up. So
Yeah.
definitely does make a lot more sense. Is there a particular player that you're most looking forward to watching this season, whether that being a new player or a returning player?
Yeah, I mean, made no secret since the only way I could talk to people last year was really Twitter was what I was using to talk to fans. I think it's no secret that I'm a big Ish Leggett fan. That man is gonna be a superstar, and I think we're gonna see him blossom into a superstar starting this year. If I just the fact he's got 3 more seasons is gonna be, oh man, it just sky's the limit. He's just an all around great player. But I'm excited for a lot of players. I'm excited for both the Martins no, I'm sorry, both Mitchells to get out there and play again. Mikel stepped it up big time last year. I think he, got improved by leaps and bounds. And Mackay, after he got unfortunately injured, is going to hopefully be ready to go this year. And I think having both of them out there, like we saw early on, is going to be huge for us, especially in conference play, since the A10 doesn't have guys that big often. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited that Shepard's returning. I was very nervous, that we didn't have like a veteran point guard, this upcoming this season. So I'm happy that he's back to kind of lead the charge, and be a steady, experienced hand. Yeah, and I really do like everybody. So I'm excited. We got some newcomers. Barry, I'm interested to see. Then we got Abdu Sam, I think is coming too, and I'm excited to see him. He's a big guy. I like all our players. I just really hope that they can pull together as a unit, establish an identity, and really make an impact in the A10 this year.
For sure. The first player you mentioned, Ish Leggett, I was rooting for him the entire year. And the 2 broadcasts that I got, I kept mentioning him. I knew I was watching at home a bit because of quarantine and we had to go home during winter break, spring break.
Yep.
But I knew this guy as a freshman standout. I can tell he is going to be a great player down the road. It was fun watching him this year, and now having Shepard back and as well as Ish Amin to kind of mentor him, I think he's going to develop into a star. And I think Rhody's going to get a true point guard out of him. So I think definitely with Fats leaving, I thought, all right, because that happened before Jeremy Shepard announced returning. This is going to be a little weak spot in the lineup. But with El Amin and Shepard coming into this lineup, I think that just makes us a deeper team. And I think the matchups are going to be more fun, especially in person now. What matchups are you looking forward to seeing this year? Are there any particular?
No, I don't care, man. I want to be out there. I want to have fans. I want to step on the court. I want to turn my microphone on. I gotta lose a few pounds because I gained a couple lbs during COVID. So I may have to get a size up on my patented joggers to fit maybe some new roadie gear. But man, I don't care who we play at all. I just am really psyched to get out on the court. Feel that energy, reunite with all my people at URI, all the fans, the cheerleaders, the Ramettes, the band, the students, the Rocket. I'm just waiting for everything. It's going to be so sweet to be back there with everybody this year. I really can't wait.
Definitely. I think the second that the Ryan Center fills up again and everyone's kind of back to normal and on their feet, it's going to be more special than a big win over a big team because everyone's kind of just back in the arena and it's been such a long year. So 100% agree with you on that. How do you plan on getting the fans excited and motivated on this upcoming season? And what message do you have for them?
I don't think I'm going to have to get them motivated, man. I think they're going to just be excited to get there. But, one thing I will say, and it's always really important to me, and unfortunately they missed out last year, but, every year when the season starts, we have a new group of freshmen and they, we do our best. The marketing staff does the best to build a buzz on campus, go to dorms, tell them to come and show up to these basketball games so that they can really become, members of the Ruckus and, a part of the energy and what makes the Ryan Center so special. And especially because those kids live on campus, the freshmen, it's important that they come and really build out and make the Ruckus really what it is. So every year early on, I'm always, really excited to see all those new faces, get them ingrained into learn the chants, learn what we do, learn how to just be a member of the Ruckus. I always love that. And then, you want to lock them in, make them thirsty for more so that they come back game after game and then become fans throughout, their time at URI and then for life. So that's always really important to me. But as far as getting the fans and the Ruckus and everybody excited, I have no plans. I think, by default, everyone is really going to be rabid just because they missed out on one whole season of basketball. So I just really can't wait to get out there. And, I don't know what I'm going to say first when I turn that microphone on, but I'm sure it's going to be loud and it's going to be exciting.
For sure. JV, I really do appreciate you taking the time. And go Rhody. It's going to be a great season.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Adam. You're doing a great job with this. Keep it up, dude. It's, the more fans we have, the more podcasts, videos, exposure on social media just does, even more just to raise the profile of Rhody and what we do here. And I'm really happy for you, dude. And I can't wait to see you soon in person and go Rhody.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, dude.
Piece of paper bearing my name. Got the hottest chick in the